us. And
We forgot
once
to
that
start
application
recording.
comes into us and is approved, it's basically turned over to the hatcheries at that time, and we have all the only contact we have with it is just some touch-ups on the paperwork from time to time. All right. If you are going to do a brand new derby, if you're brand new to our derby program, as she said, what is it, 60 days?
60 days on a new derby. We cannot schedule any new derbies between May 15th and June 15th. Had to turn down a couple of those this week too. May 15th to June 15th is as full as it can be.
Those are our blackout dates due to it being a free fishing weekend and so many repeat derbies during that time that we cannot accommodate another derby during that time. So, also something to know about the derby program is the beginning of derby season is March 15th. The end of October is the end of derby season. Any derby conducted needs to be within those dates. I know it makes it harder for some of you schools because of testing and what have you, Christmas break and all. I mean, your days are limited anyway, right? Especially when you knock out the summer months. But we do have a lot of derbies that's right there towards the end of school and right there in the fall at the start of the school time so that we can get them all in, okay? Moving on. The derby kits. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not part of the FINS program, you will receive a derby kit. This derby kit contains a lot of times a rod and reel, a tackle bag, a little bit of literature in it, and some bait. Those items that's in there are educational items. They're sent to you as educational items, not prizes. The Game and Fish cannot hand out prizes. We cannot deliver prizes out for these derbies. The reason why the FINS sponsors do not receive that is because they receive equipment already, the same equipment as educational equipment, but in larger numbers. 1 or 2 rods and reels is not going to help when you've already got 24 of them set there to teach with. The literature that's sitting in there is 4 or 5 of the fish ID books and possibly some beginner's fishing guides. My FINS sponsors already have a classroom set of 25 of each of those. The only thing you're really missing out on is the bait. And that's something else I'll talk to you about here a little bit later in the program, is how to acquire some of that bait. Sponsors and volunteers for these derbies do need to do a short fishing 101 prior to it if possible. That way the kids can have more time fishing and less time getting untangled or casting into their neighbor line of casting or what have you. It just makes for a all-around better derby experience for the people attending if they learn a little bit prior to the derby itself. There are some video resources out there at our virtual nature center. You can find it at agfcnaturecenter.com, and it'll take you through casting, knot tying, and a lot of other skills that'll be helpful for that derby and for the derby goer. So utilize that as much as you can. Share that with your attendees as they're registering for a derby or what have you. Let's see. Also inside those derby kits, there'll be a set of signs. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and put those signs up and keep them for the next year if possible for your next year's derby. Those signs will have QR codes on them and such where they can sit there, and those that are not licensed to fish when they show up can turn around, scan that QR code, and then wind up buying a fishing license with on their phone to keep them legal while they're there fishing. Yes, and even at a fishing derby, the Game and Fish is offered fish for anybody 16 years of age and older needs to have a fishing license. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns so far? Please put it in the chat. Remain muted. Just put it in the chat over here to the right. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I'll put a link over to our virtual Tara put a link in there for the Virtual Nature Center, and I'll put one in there for our fishing derby page, where you can go find the forms that Tara was talking about, the application and the after action report. Can I list what you want? Yes, Tara, would you list that out inside the chat?
What is,
Everything you want inside an email?
I did.
Okay.
It's in there. I did it. Now some of these questions we'll wait and answer at the end.
Right.
Just keep typing your questions in the chat and we'll go through them all at the end.
Promotion of other programs is up next on my agenda here. Ladies and gentlemen, first off, I'm going to promote mine, the Fishing in the Natural State program. A lot of you is already a member of it. I see Miss Julie Beaver, I see Dion, I seen Arlene Newmeyer there, and that's just in the first couple of rows. It's part of the Fishing in the Natural State program. I know there's several others. Miss Kim Rankin there on my third row. I was just at their derby yesterday for a little while, and I saw a lot of kids catching fish. And having a derby this early in the year, Miss Kim got to experience something a lot of people don't get to experience in a derby with their kids. They were catching catfish and trout there at their derby, which was a blast. Fishing in the Natural State program is a program designed to reach out to educators, traditional and non-traditional educators around the state. And it's designed also the target audience is 4th through 12th grade students. It comes with a curriculum. I offer a educator's kit goes out with it to help teach from that curriculum, and especially the fishing skills portion of it. So anybody who may be interested in that, you can contact me. You go into our website, agfc.com/fins. And you can find all my email information and everything there. Other programming we have, Family and Community Fishing Program. That Family and Community Fishing Program, ladies and gentlemen, those are the bodies of water I like to see targeted around the state for derbies. Those are where the Game and Fish have partnered up with City Parks and Rec, and a pond on one of those parks is usually stocked on a regular basis by Game and Fish. Catfish during the summer months, and then with some of them, we stock trout during the winter months. As was the one I mentioned with Miss Kim Rankin's derby yesterday, was at Greenbrier, there at Matthews Park Pond. They get trout in the winter and they get catfish during the summer. The Family and Community Fishing Program also does a lot of events around the state that are great for kids and adults as well to attend. You get them out there and get them interested in fishing and having a little bit of fellowship out there during that. Our Grand Slam program, that's probably our newest program. Miss Tara helps head that one out. Tara, you want to tell them a little bit about the Grand Slam?
Okay, I'm just now put a link to the Grand Slam. It is a new program we started this year. You catch one each of a trout, a brim, a crappie, a catfish, and a bass. Size doesn't matter, just one of each. Could be a black bass or a white bass, temperate bass. Take pictures of each of your fish. When you have the 5 of them, there is an application form on that website that I just put in the link. In the chat, I put a link to it. Fill out the form, and we send you this really nice Arkansas Grand Slam sticker. So it's just now really starting to grow. We've had about 5 people put in applications so far that have caught their fish. And as Bo was saying about the family and community ponds, that is where most of our applicants have actually come out of so far. So those family and community ponds are a very good place to go fish.
The Grand Slam sticker is a way to show off your fishing skills, your fishing ability, and sometimes the amount of time you got to kill to go fishing, right? I know how a lot of people are nowadays. They get wrapped up in everything but fishing. And fishing is just a hobby or a pastime. For me, people like me though, who are consumed with it, that grand slam would be pretty easy to hit. Patch program or skills patch program, that is where you can sit there and track yourself and let others see how you're doing, coming through the different outdoor skills, whether it be fishing, shooting sports, a conservation patch, and so forth. I mean, there's several of them out there. I believe Tara's going to put a link for them over here.
Yeah, it's in there. One of the links I've already put in.
You can go there and see what all the requirements are. In order to receive one of the patches, you need to attend a program to get your beginner patch. Attend one of the Game and Fish programs, whether it's through a nature center or through an event with shooting sports, archery in the schools, or fishing education. You get that beginner's patch, and then turn around, you can get rockers to go underneath that tracks you through, whether intermediate, advanced, expert, mentor. So all that right there is a way to show your skills and your growing skills in the outdoor activities. Classes. Well, like I said with the patch program, the fishing education program, as well as our nature centers, do classes throughout the state, teaching outdoor skills. And those are great ways to get not only an introduction to the outdoors and those skills, but ways to advance through it as well. Each of the programs are trying to not only nurture the beginning of it, but help you walk through each phase and get up through there to where you become more comfortable and become an expert at it eventually. Archery in the Schools program, some of you sponsors for the FINS program know about the Archery in the Schools program, as well as our youth shooting sports. A new program we have out there is our outdoor adventure program. There is a little bit of a buy-in for that for schools, but if you're already a part of our Archery in the Schools program, our youth shooting sports program, and our FINS program, it cuts the price because you already have some of that equipment that they ask you to have to teach those lessons from that curriculum. And I know it sounds like I just did a quick infomercial, ladies and gentlemen, on our programs for Game and Fish, but it's all out there and it's available, and we wanted to let you know that as well. Rules and regulations for our derbies now. We'll start off with a big one. No fees or fundraisers. The derby cannot be charged. No one can be charged to come in to fish the derby. It cannot be used as a fundraiser. We're offering you free fish, the way we can get people out there in the community, in your communities, and come out and fish. Okay. And having said that, in the years past, for those of you who've been with us a while, we've always encouraged it to be a kids-only fishing derby. We no longer do that. Now we're encouraging it to be a family event as well. Even for you schools that are looking to conduct fishing derbies on the weekends, allow the parents to come out and fish alongside them. And we're offering that in hopes that you get more family involvement with it. The parents won't reject bringing their kids to a fishing derby because they can't fish alongside them. I've seen that personally happen at a few derbies. Well, if I can't fish, my kid's not staying. And I know that's a bad way to be, but we all know there's people out there like it. Outside vendors such as food trucks are allowed, but cannot be charged a fee to set up and attend. Something that can be done though, especially for you schools, if you want to set up a food truck or something like that and sell hot dogs or what have you for your students or their parents to come purchase, that's a way to help kick in a little bit for your future field trips and such. Okay. Must be in a public body of water. In years past, we have let that slide some. because of the growing number of derbies that out there. As Tara said, we've got over 300 applications already for this year alone. So that cuts into our fish big time that we're able to provide. And I know each one of my fin sponsors is required to conduct a fishing derby or fishing event. Ladies and gentlemen, just within fins, I've got 250 sponsors out there. That's already a lot of fish, considering our target is to provide 3 fish per anticipated attendee. If they've got 50 people showing up to fish a derby, that's 150 fish. You multiply that by 300 and you start getting into a lot of fish. One derby per calendar year per sponsor.
Bo, could I add something just a minute?
Yes, ma'am.
About I know after the last derby training we did, I got a flood of emails about people's water body. If you're on here, you're already approved for a derby. Your water body is approved. So you don't need to worry about that. You wouldn't have got an invitation or a confirmation if you weren't approved. But I did after the last one. I got a flood of emails. Is my water body okay? Well, if you're approved, you're okay. So you don't have, it's one less thing for you to worry about.
Some of you older derbies that have been with us for years and years, the water body has been grandfathered in and is in our books. Any incoming derby from as of, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe just a little bit longer, any incoming new derby after that has had to be in a public body of water. And if you're having issues finding a public body of water, contact myself, contact Miss Tara, and we'll do our dead best to try to help you find a body of water close to you. Okay? And one that's suitable for a derby. Well, I'm not talking about setting you up in Bull Shoals Lake. There ain't no need in us dropping 150 fish in a water body that big. Once again, though, one derby per calendar year per sponsor for a fish stocking. That's not saying you cannot go to a family and community fishing pond and have another event. That's saying that we'll only provide those added fish for one derby a year for each sponsor. Okay? 16 or older must have a valid fishing license. Ladies and gentlemen, I would hate for some of our co-workers to come out and visit some of these derby attendees and them be 16 or older and wind up getting a nice shiny piece of paper that's not an invitation to a ball. So it's not your job to check for license, but if the wildlife officer was to show up and start checking, I'd hate for anybody not to have one. There is a 10 catfish limit statewide. Inside our family and community fishing program bodies of water, it's 3 catfish. And once again, if we're providing fish for that derby, we try to provide 3 fish per attendee. Okay? Let's see. Any questions, comments, concerns so far? Put them inside the chat. We'll try to answer a few of them before we move on to some tips.
Okay, I've got a fins question.
Okay.
Okay, how often do the fin schools get supplies such as hooks and bobbers, like restocked in their kits?
Yeah, I can get them to you every 3 years. Hooks, sinkers, and bobbers. You can turn around though every year to apply for the conservation education grant and use that grant money to help purchase those materials annually as well. Also, you can also talk with your community leaders and get them to donate. That's anybody's conducting a derby. Get your community involved. Visit some of these stores out there, some of these outside vendors. Talk with the local banks, talk with the local stores, talk with the local restaurants. That's the best places to get prizes and donations. And trust me, if you're doing mainly a kids derby, Don't overthink that prize. By any means, do not overthink that prize. Ladies and gentlemen, just to give you an example, my wife and I helped sponsor a derby for a church we were attending in Ward when we lived there. Our second year, the church and the community come together enough that we were drawing names out of a box and giving away 3 or 4 prizes an hour. Not loaded on big fish, most fish caught, smallest fish, so forth and so on. Just simply drawing 4 names out, giving prizes. At the end of that derby, everybody's name went back in the box, and we drew for 2 grand prizes. That second year that we were there, the community come together enough that we wound up giving away 2 full camping sets for a family of 4. I'm talking cabin tent, sleeping bags, cook stove, lawn chairs, lanterns, you name it, it was in there for camping. Also among these prizes, the local Domino's pizza chain gave me about 200 coupons for a single serving, individual sized pizza. After we drew names for the grand prizes, I found one of the kids that won one of the grand prizes over trying to trade this camping set for a Domino's pizza coupon. You're not, you overthink, if you overthink it, you're lost. Kids do not think the way we do. No prize is too small. I wound up giving him 2 that I had extra in my pocket just to get him to keep that camping set and not trade it off.
The fish we supply are channel catfish.
We do not do trout derbies anymore other than for our trout hatchery, and that's on hold until it's finished being refurbished.
You can have a derby any day of the week. Remember, if you pick a Sunday, your fish will come on Friday. But any day of the week is fine to have a derby. Common prizes, well, Bo just talked about what some of the prizes are. They can be anything or everything. If you've got a local Sonic, they're always giving out ice cream cone coupons. We get those all the time for stuff here in Carlisle. So, let's see. What happens when you catch and keep more than 3? If you're at a family and community pond, the limit is 3. I mean, if you've got a wildlife officer there, I guess that would be up to him. And like we said, we supply 3 fish per person that is expected as at a derby. So somebody says here they give a prize for the person who catches the most fish. So.
And yes, Michelle Fitzgerald, she's also one of my fans group. The board had fishing poles left from last year because kids were choosing chairs, nets, tackle boxes, and such, coolers over the rods and reels. And Miss Pearl was one of our state parks. She said she supplied tackle boxes and lures, but would love to hear more suggestions. More suggestions. Well, once again, do not try to overthink it when it comes to when the derbies are mainly for kids. Anything and everything is something that a kid would enjoy. It makes a great prize. Whether it's one of those pocket games, some ID cards of some sort for reptiles. I mean, everything like that right there makes great prizes. And I know with the state parks, they have some nice little gift shops in there that have some small stuff that the kids would love. Dip into your budget a little bit, Pearl. Other tips and hints for a successful event. Yes, Greg, 16 years of age and older must have a license. 16 years of age and older must have a license to fish. Advertise, ladies and gentlemen, especially those of you who are doing it within your community or looking to get your community involved in it. Advertise. Teachers, send out memos home with the students. Welcome those parents in as volunteers to help out. You can never have enough help when it comes to doing a fishing derby or a fishing event for kids. You can ask Miss Tara. Each year, Lone Oak Schools walks their kids down to our hatchery where we're office at. Each year, we both love and dread those days because there will be rods and reels that need to be untangled. Kids that don't want to bait their own. Kids that don't understand how to set the hook properly. Get enough volunteers out there. If you're working through a school and doing this, and especially if you're doing with elementary age kids or middle school age kids, get the high school age kids involved. Some of those that's already got experience in fishing. Teach those high school age kids the proper way as well. Well, let them come out there and fish alongside the younger kids and mentor them. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, those younger kids will listen to the older kids quicker than they will us adults anyway. They already look up to them. Let them be a service. Let them also get out there and do something they enjoy as well, and let them do a little fishing. Keep extra tackle on hand, especially if you're doing a catch and release derby like I know a lot of schools will do. There's a lot of schools out there that will do theirs during the school day, and I understand that you don't want the fish taken back into the classroom. I understand that. You don't want them to have to carry them in an ice chest on the bus. Get them back to the school. So when you're doing those catch and release derbies like that, carry some extra tackle with you. Each one of those kits I send out from my fins teachers, they get 100 number 4 hooks, 100 split shot, 50 bobbers. Well, if the fish swallows that hook, don't try to rip the hook out. Cut it off as close as you can to their mouth, turn them back loose, tie another hook on. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, that fish, if he bit that hook that first time, he'll bite it again. No ifs, ands, or buts. Be patient. Not just with the kids, be patient with the adults as well. They're all excited to be out there and enjoying something. Remember what it's like to be excited and let them enjoy themselves. Don't let them get carried away, but let them enjoy themselves. Contact your local police department. They like to get some PR time in. Let them come out there and share in the event and come out and walk around for everybody. Our local wildlife officers, the same way with them. Let them come out and get some contact with the kids and with the adults around the pond while they're fishing. That'll stop some of that if the limits at a family community fishing pond is 3 and somebody's walking off with 10, that'll stop some of that. And it'll also help them understand those police officers, those wildlife officers, they're people too. For you teachers, get more teachers in your school involved in it. For you community leaders, get more people out of your community involved in it. Whether it be the Chamber of Commerce, your local optimists or Kiwanis, what have you, get them involved. Let them come out there. Let them help out. Team up with each other. I mean, I'm not looking at a full list here, but I know I've got several teachers on here. I'm pretty sure there's some 4-H personnel on here as well. 4-H, team up with the schools. Schools, team up with 4-H. Do your derbies that way. Team up with the local Optimist Club. Team up with the local Kiwanis that might be conducting a derby or want to conduct a derby. Team up with the city, the Chamber of Commerce, the local Parks and Rec. All right. Any other questions or anything like that?
Somebody asked about categories for prizes. I know when some derbies I've been at that did prizes, they had something for the first fish caught. They They did weigh-ins and gave a prize for the biggest fish every hour. Just different things like that. Some just had where you threw your name in the hat and they did a drawing until they gave away all the prizes they have. So that's just really up to you, however you want to do it.
Yeah, we don't have
We're out of the prize
any
business.
guidelines for doing prizes.
And you don't have to do prizes at all.
Exactly. The experience itself can be a prize. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was growing up and learning how to fish, that's what it was. The prize was being out there, enjoying my time outdoors around the body of water, as well as, and yes, I grew up behind the times, as well as if we caught anything, it was something to eat later that evening.
I missed
Other
the
questions here? Ms. Vasquez, you missed the information on the kits. The kits themselves are for you to use. As far as the fins kits that you receive, all that equipment in there and stuff is for you to use repeatedly over the years. And none of it's prizes. If you want to do prizes, you have to go out and get inside the community and solicit prizes from your local vendors, local shop owners, as well as local restaurants and so forth. And as far as soliciting bait, ladies and gentlemen, I got asked to attend a derby one year and wound up going to this derby. They asked me to bring some bait. I brought 20 boxes of red worms. I figured 20 boxes of red worms would be sufficient. I get there and they done talked to their local bank as well. The local bank brought 20 boxes of red worms, except their boxes, each one of their boxes they brought had 60 of my size boxes in it. They brought 20 cases of red worms for these kids to use out there for that derby. Do not overlook your banks when you're talking to them. They like to be involved, to be seen doing things for the community. Some of these banks have a big cooking trailer they can drag around and help cook hot dogs and hamburgers for the attendees. Find out if your local area has one of those banks on hand. Larry says he teams up the local high school fishing team. They've always been willing to come help teach the younger kids. They also like the PR. I agree. And like I said before, these high school age kids, the younger kids already look up to them. They'll listen to them a lot quicker than they will us adults because they're closer to them in age. And Miss Pearl, I understand. Sometimes there's going to be those derbies like that where no one catches the fish. I was concerned about yesterday's derby that I attended for the simple fact that it was still early enough in the year and the water temperature was still cool enough over from Miss Rankin's derby, Whitman School's derby, that I was afraid the fish wasn't going to turn on until afternoon because the water was still so cold. You got to keep in mind, these fish are cold-blooded. They let their environment control their metabolism. If their metabolism is not increased a little bit, they will not eat. They'll sit there with a lockjaw and just look at that bait, bump them in the head. And there are some times that our fish stocking trucks show up and stock it, and there seems to be a lookout somewhere that will call a network of people who will come fish real hard that night. So talk with your local police department, your local parks and rec, when you're getting these bodies of water stocked, seeing if there's any way they can shut it down for the night after those fish are stocked to save them for your derby time. Let them explain to them, you want the kids to be able to catch fish. I've had them shut it down for me of an evening, and then it'd be opened back up after the derby's over with to the general public. Are they required to catch and release, or is it up to us? Miss Pinkston, no, they're not required to catch and release. And yes, that is up to you. But like I said, keep in mind, we're only offering 3 fish per participating attendee. what we need to do while everyone is fishing? Do we walk around and talk to people? I advise it. Pearl, is when I show up to a derby, it was like yesterday's going to Miss Rankin's. I walk around and talk to a few people and sit there and offer assistance when I seen needed. If someone broke off a hook, lost a hook due to a catfish swallowing it, I was there to help tie one back on if I was close by at the time. But it also does me good to walk around and see when they're actually catching fish and see them catching it. And the excitement these kids and these people have is contagious. At least to me it is. I also get to learn a lot about the people and the volunteers showing up, because yes, I will stop and talk with the volunteers as well.
If it's windy, do you recommend switching from a bobber to the Carolina rig setup?
That is depending upon how many people you got at your derby and how big the body of water is. John, you're down there in Lake Village. Y'all got a pretty good sized pond. I would talk with the city and try to get them to do a little bit more bush hogging and cutting back on the back side of that levee. That way it'd be a little bit more inviting for the kids over there. If the wind's blowing up from the south side of that pond there, they can get on that south side there and cast out, and that won't be floating the bait back into the bank. But something else to keep in mind, these catfish that are coming out from hatcheries, they're used to being thrown food from a truck, and a lot of it is floating feed. So they want that bait suspended a little bit. That's what they're used to. So if you're going to do a Carolina rig as opposed to a bobber setup, I'd make that leader just a little bit longer, that way to get up a little bit higher in the water column. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you're fishing a Carolina rig, that bait's not laying on the bottom most of the time. It will float up. It just depends on how long that leader line is as to how far up from the bottom it will float. I'm gonna change gears here a little bit and let you know, catfish are not the scavengers that a lot of people make them out to be. They're not bottom feeders, they're just lazy. They like to lay on the bottom and they'll feed up. Okay? Any more questions? Anything I haven't covered that y'all would like to hear about? I know we get tons of questions about derbies each year. No? We might wrap this up earlier than an hour then.
Who do we contact to get the fish delivered? If you're here in this, your fish delivery is already taken care of. The hatchery will call you, let you know what time they're going to be there, and to make sure someone's there, if you're not a fins person, to get your derby kit. I've put my email in there. If you have any questions about your delivery, you can call me. But like I said, if you're getting these emails and invited to attend this, your delivery is set up.
Even as a fin sponsor, you might not get a derby kit sent to you, but you should be contacted about your delivery of fish. That way you can come out and witness it.
Mm-hmm. Everybody will be called before they leave the hatchery.
We're trying to get it set up to where they'll contact you a few days ahead of time as well, and then contact you the day of delivery. That way you can meet them there at the body of water.
Yep. Working on that. How do you keep public fishers from mixing with the derby participants?
Oh, Pearl, you got it on that one there. That's going to be up to y'all. Being a state park, and that being a public body, state park body of water, that's going to be up to you and your superintendent, whether you want to shut it down to the public other than derby attendees at that time. Otherwise, I don't see how you can keep them from mixing in. Also, do I recommend netting off a section of a body of 31-acre lake in preparation for the derby? that can get to be expensive. Memphis Net and Twine does make block off nets, but there's going to be issues with those block off nets. Fish can still find a way underneath it at times, and if it's not staked out properly, they can go over the top of that net at times. If you do not have that net far enough out, people will cast up as close to that net as possible and get tangled up in it. So there's always going to have to be repairs made to that net. My suggestion would be is if you have a smaller body of water, a small pond or something like that in your state park, utilize it as your derby location. Harold, we decided to cancel this year's derby, but plan to start back next year. Tara and I talked about that earlier, Harold, about you had canceled this year due to possible low attendance. We look forward to seeing you back in. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Okay.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the links that we put in here to get to the Derby, fishing derby page, where you can find the application and the after action report. That after action report needs to be done within 30 days after the derby is completed. Deadlines, once again, derby season is March 15th through October 31st, and the blackout dates are May 15th through June 15th.
And if you want to save the chat to have those links down at the very bottom of the chat box, there's 3 little dots. If you click on that, it'll give you an option to save the chat.
That will put it on your in a file on your computer where you can come back to it later on and gather these links back up. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's no other questions, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out and taking time, spending time with us. Once again, Miss Tara put her email contact in there.
I'll put yours in too.
You did?
I will.
Okay. I'll let you, because my typing's a lot slower than hers. I'll still operate on the search and destroy method with keyboard. Like I said, I appreciate y'all coming out and spending time with us and learn more about our derby program. Right now, this is not mandatory, but we're moving closer and closer to thinking a orientation, so to speak, of this sort needs to be mandatory for any of our derby sponsors. That way we can address the issues before they arise. Some of the more common ones anyway. If anytime y'all see one of these come up, you want to re-attend, feel free to re-register. Maybe you come up with some questions that you didn't think about at the time during this one, and feel free to ask them then or email me and Miss Tara. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming out. We'll see y'all soon.